Hi, everybody. I'm John Hare. I'm the president of the Battle of Homestead Foundation Board of Directors, and welcome to a special program in our program series this year. It's called Union and Protest Songs, Their History and How to Use Them Today. And I want to say I am so proud that we're able to have this program tonight and a wonderful, wonderful participant that'll be leading our program, Ted Everhart. I want to tell a story. My wife, Joni Rabinowitz, was in SNCC, and she worked in voter registration back in the 1960s in Georgia. And she tells me the story of going to a meeting, and some of the people came and showed up, some of the average citizens and so on, and somebody earnestly began to talk, and somebody else said, "Wait a minute, where's the song?" And they said, "Oh yeah," and they began to sing the freedom songs in the civil rights movement. There can't really, in my opinion, be effective social justice movement if we don't speak to every emotion, every reason, and every feeling that people have. And nothing does that better than reasoned arguments, passionate songs, effective action, and most importantly, collective action, singing together. And I want to say that we need to sing more and march more and maybe talk less. But we're doing a good job, and Ted's going to help us learn how to do that tonight. For those of you not familiar with the Battle of Homestead, let me give you our spiel. Inspired by the dramatic labor conflict of the 1892 Battle of Homestead, we promote a people's history, empower today's workforce, and build strategies for the future of work. Now, that music you hear behind me is music of my phone, which I'm not going to answer. The Battle of Homestead values the dignity of work, labor's rich heritage and its pivotal place in our society, community engagement through programs and partnerships, skills development and a prepared workforce for the future, and human rights within a robust democracy. Our vision is we will celebrate working class culture, preserve labor's rich heritage, and shape the future of work. So tonight, we're going to talk about working class culture, and we're very pleased to do so. Those of you that want to have questions or comments for our speaker tonight, please use the chat. Our excellent committee member, Nathan Ruggles, is going to be collecting those questions and forwarding them to Ted as we go along. But we will have a question and answer period following Ted's presentation. I want to thank you all if you're here for the first time, and tell you that you're very, very welcome, and hope that you take the time to look at the Battle of Homestead website to follow all of our activities, and you're certainly welcome to join us. We're all better together. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Battle of Homestead's communication coordinator, Larry McCullough, who not only is a whiz at our website, he happens to be an ethnomusicologist, and sometimes appears on our podcast talking about the appropriate songs that go with the subject of the podcast. And Larry's going to introduce our featured speaker, Dr. Edwin, Ted Everhart. Don't be afraid that he's a doctor. It's a PhD, and he wears a working class shirt on the picket line. So, Larry?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, ethnomusicology. First thing you do when you go for that degree is you have to learn how to actually spell the word, and that can take several months. But tonight we're going to hear from Dr. Edwin Everhart, and he is a scholar and a performer of American music, American folk music. His academic specialty, however, is a field called cultural anthropology, which means he studies how groups of people work together in society, how people adapt to their environment, not only in genetic ways, but in terms of their behavior and their beliefs. It's a fascinating field called cultural anthropology because it looks at how we all function when we interact with each other. Tonight, he's going to use that perspective to show us what happens when we sing protest songs and how we use this very targeted type of music to try and achieve a very specific purpose in our groups and gatherings. And perhaps most importantly, he's going to tell us how we can use this music to advance our everyday efforts to make a better world through organizing and social action. So with absolutely no further ado, here is Dr. Everhart.
Thank you so much, Larry, and thank you to everyone at Battle of Homestead Foundation for setting up this opportunity. I'm so glad to have the chance to talk with you. Before everyone is all the way settled in and muted ourselves and everything, I want to ask you something. And I want to just jump in and ask you to think about a time when you were at a big meeting or you were at a picket line or a protest. And I want you to think about why you would want to sing together with everyone there. Why you might want to do that. And I also want to ask you to think about what makes it hard to do that. What makes it hard to sing together with people when you're out at the picket line? I was over at the ATI line a couple weeks ago. I don't know how many picket lines you've been in recently, folks, but I'm sure you've been at a good few things. If you have any thoughts about that, I will try to take a look at the chat now, although I won't be able to look at it when I'm actually doing the talk. So if you want to take a minute and think about that, we can. And while you are maybe typing some things in there, I'll just briefly add a little more self-introduction. I have my PhD in linguistic anthropology. So among all the things that Larry correctly and kindly mentioned, I also have a sort of specialty in language stuff. Not even musicology, not even ethnomusicology, but I also help to direct, or rather I direct, I'll say, the Pittsburgh Labor Choir. So yes, so we can learn more about the Labor Choir together later if you want. I'm looking at the chat now, and yes, I have one or two people asking me to turn up my my volume. So please let me know if I'm blowing out your speakers with too much or if there's too little, and I can try to make adjustments. It's hard to get people to join in unless the songs are spirited and led by someone with spirit. If it's a dirge, a funeral-like dirge, the songs fail miserably. You want to get solidarity with the group? Okay. Yeah, these are some good ones. Yeah. I can't sing, so a lot of people have to sing before I join in. Friends, comrades, this is why we all have to... Can I carry the tune? Question, can I carry the tune? I have somebody saying there's increased energy for the group. That's right, that's right. Yeah, I feel the same way. Yeah, I would tend to agree. Okay, well, thank you so much for those thoughts, and maybe we can have some more as we keep going. Everyone can sing, and if enough sing, no one notices those who are tone deaf. I would tend to agree with that, yes. What's our shared repertoire and knowledge music-wise? Yeah, that's a great question too. That's a question that you have when you're thinking about whether you can sing together, right? Absolutely. So you start there. So okay, we'll keep that rolling, if you will, team. And I'm going to turn off the chat and keep going. And I just want to mention, keep writing comments or questions in the chat window in Zoom, and we'll come back to those about 8:35, 8:40, and we'll have a, hopefully, if I'm not going on too long. And I want to invite you to sing along at home a couple of times. during this a good number of times, so we'll see what feels good with that. But I want to invite everyone to stay muted on your end until at least Q&A time for a couple of reasons. Because of the way Zoom and things like it work, we'll just be way offbeat from each other no matter how much we try. And Zoom can only play 1 or 2 different audio inputs, so it's going to jump randomly between different people. And the worst of all is that you might get caught singing along when you didn't mean to be heard by everyone, and suddenly you're going to be on display. So just watch out for that. Okay. So today we're talking about union songs and protest songs. First, we must ask, what is a song, right? What is a song? There are very few things that are common across every human culture. Singing is very close to that, very close to universal, right? It's been there in most human societies for as long as we can tell. It's probably as old as language. We know that language is about 100,000 years old, maybe a lot older. And you know that languages rely on rhythm a lot, and that's true of sign languages as well as spoken languages. And spoken languages tend to use pitch as well, pitch and rhythm. Oh, now we got some ingredients of music, don't we? Pitch as well. And you might be thinking, well, English isn't a tonal language, Chinese is a tonal language. Ah, but it includes English. It includes English? It includes English. You see, the pitch is meaningful in most spoken languages, just at a different scale sometimes. So music is a way of expressing meaning. And a lot of meaning that we want to express is to persuade people of something. You know, you might want to persuade people, a bunch of irreverent people, how wonderful God is. Or you might want to persuade your sweetheart, your lovely sweetheart, how madly you're in love with him. And you might want to persuade people that the king is gracious and the king is noble. And you might want to persuade people that you live in the land of the free and the home of something else. Right? You might persuade people that Winston tastes good like a cigarette should. And so songs are also supremely useful for popular movements, right? Not just for something in the interest of the ruling class. The labor movements, revolutionary movements, social movements of all kinds, right? Because they're a way of expressing meaning. So songs are useful in their own distinct ways. As Pete Seeger said, songs can do what speeches cannot do. And it's also been said that a good song is worth 100 speeches or 1,000 speeches. So what is the song doing? What are the functions of the song? Well, our good friend, R. Serge Denisov, who has this text, Sing a Song of Social Significance, and a few other analyses, Denisov says that, first of all, the function depends on the context. If you're singing one song at the picket line, that's different than singing it in your hotel room at the end of a conference or something like this, right? But so Denisov identifies 6 major functions of sort of political songs. One is to get outside support. You need donations. You need people to believe in your cause. 2 is to reinforce values within the group and make sure that everybody believes the same things. 3 is an slightly different version of that. It's cohesion, morale, getting people to feel loyalty to each other, feel connected, as we had that mentioned before. 4 is to actually recruit more people into the movement. 5 for Denisov is to call for or invoke or imagine very specific solutions. And 6, the final one for Denisov, is to point to a problem, to describe a problem, but not necessarily identifying particular solutions. So we believe that there is, we're talking about all the evils that have happened over here, but it's mostly just describing what the problem is. Okay, so songs have this way of creating a commonality of experience by people literally doing something together, right? You're literally taking collective action when we're singing together, although that's not necessarily universal. In a lot of societies, you'll just have kind of one person singing, and that's we don't really do a lot of harmonies. But they create to, or they at least refer to, common experience usually. And if you want to play a little game, I don't recommend this as a drinking game because of how much you drink. But if you want to play a little game, you can watch for how many times in lyrics this evening you're going to hear we and us and our and other references to the first person plural, right? So anyway, so this has always been true, right? That songs are powerful for political purposes. And so that means that the historical record of protest songs is mostly just where do we have a record of songs at all? In most places, music has been a community effort. It remains a community effort in many parts of the world, right? And so there's music that's made up, shared, never written down. So there are a vast number of composers of wonderful songs that we've lost to history that we'll never know, right? And also wonderful songs and other compositions that might not be something you'd want to call a song exactly, that have existed and will never be recorded. So we think about what we have recorded and available to us easily. The oldest songs of popular movements that we can think about include some really old English songs. They include the Cuddy Wren, which is a song of the 1381 peasant revolt in England. And there's also Stand Up Now, which is also called the Diggers' Song, which was written at the time of the Levelers movement or the Diggers movement in 1649. And so this is an early, it's considered often an early anarchist movement that believed in leveling society, right, making everyone equal. So, you noble diggers all, stand up now, you noble diggers all, stand up now, like so, right? The wasteland to reclaim, seeing cavaliers by name, your digging does disdain, and persons all defame, stand up now, diggers all. Right, so there's quite a lot of verses. There's maybe 14 verses or more to this song, but the cavaliers are the horse-mounted soldiers who are essentially the cops, right? So, okay. We get a little bit closer to the present. We have a lot of Union songs that come to us from the Union Army as well. I know I'm jumping a couple hundred years here, but that's right. We're talking about soldiers' songs from the United States Civil War. One song with roots in that period, hold the fort, for we are coming, Union workers, be strong, side by side, we'll battle onward, victory will come. So this one is Hold the Fort. It's a song of the British Transport Workers Union now. But it starts with a reference to like a sort of famous saying by General Sherman during the campaign to Atlanta, hold the fort, or hold steady, or something. He didn't even literally say hold the fort, but we meet today in freedom's cause and raise our voices high. We'll join our hands in union strong to battle or to die. Hold for we are Union workers, be strong. Side by side, battle or victory will come. So there's 3 more classic verses to that too, but it's another one of these songs from the Civil War period. Remembers a pre-war martyr for the abolitionist cause. And this song is one that comes out of the black sacred music tradition called the ring shout, which is directly related to ceremonies from Igbo and Yoruba and other societies in West Africa. So soldiers combined that way of singing and this Christian song, Say Brother Will You Meet Me, and it goes like this. John Brown's body lies a moldering in the grave. John Brown's body lies a moldering in the grave. John Brown's body lies a mouldering in the grave, but his soul is marching on. Glory, 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 hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His soul is marching on. And those Union soldiers didn't hold back. They have a verse in there that goes, they will hang Jeff Davis from a sour apple tree. They will hang Jeff Davis from a sour apple tree. They will hang Jeff Davis from a sour apple tree as they march along. And so on and so forth, right? So that's a big, successful Union Army song. And then as we go further down in time, is well remembered, and 54 years later, in 1915, it became Solidarity Forever, Solidarity Forever, Solidarity Forever, for the Union makes us strong. Is there, no, when the Union's inspiration through the workers' blood shall run, there can be no power greater anywhere beneath the sun. Yet what force on earth is weaker than the feeble strength of one? For the Union makes us strong. Solidarity, you know it. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever, for the Union makes us strong. So you may have noticed something about these songs. They're not too complex, right? That's because they're meant for everyone to be able to sing together. And so as our buddy Serge Denisov says, a song of persuasion needs to be two things. It needs to be socially relevant, and it needs to be accessible enough for everyone to sing it. So you can learn it on the spot, or it's a tune you already know. There's not too many words. Not too many words is something where Solidarity Forever gets a little bit of a hazy grade there. It gets a little bit. I think it would get maybe a B or a C on too many words. It's a lot of words there. But you know, it has to be accessible. That brings us to a key distinction that I would like you to remember going forward as well, which is the distinction between these two poles. We have this pole between performance by a soloist and participation with everyone, right? And we can call it performance versus participation if you like, or solo versus shared if you like. But the solo performance is going to be the more virtuosic, the more complex song, way more lyrics, way more words, very long, right? Nothing ever repeats, and the melody might be very, very difficult too. And then the song that's for everyone to sing together is going to have many parts that repeat. Maybe the entire song is just repeating the entire way through. So it might be repeating the entire way, all the same song, same few words, and everybody just picks it up as you go along, and you spend 10 minutes doing the same very simple song over and over again, and you get deeper into it. But it's more and more accessible and more obvious for everyone. I'll show you another one. This is another one from the Black tradition, from the Black church tradition specifically. And this one you can just do, and you can loop this for a very long time, and people will come up with harmonies, and they'll come up with a harmony at home, or they're not at home, on their own, and you'll combine it all together, and just get really moved by it, get deep into it. And it goes, we are soldiers in the army, we've got to fight, although we have to cry. We have to hold up that freedom banner. We have to hold it up till we die. You can do the Union banner too if you want, or the blood-stained banner, which is the original church setting. And you just loop it like that. We are soldiers soldiers in the army. We have to fight, although we have to cry. We've got to hold up that blood-stained banner. We've got to hold it up till we die. And if you think this is just very simple, that it's not anything interesting or difficult, well, the difficulty is, the interesting part is that everybody gets to participate, gets to come up with their own harmony, right? And gets to get deeper into it in a way that you can't really get very deep into something where you're just running across all the lyrics as fast as you can, right? So, so there's some great complexity to that too. So each of these styles, the performance, solo performance pole and the shared participation pole each have their strengths. Solo performance, you can get a really complicated message out there. You can have an amazing virtuosic performance by a real professional. You can get very detailed messaging, tell the whole history of a certain struggle, right? Participation, everybody's doing it together. It's much louder. Everybody gets to feel that they did something. So that's a vast, you know, difference. Each has its separate strengths and each has its uses. And even if you're leading a song workshop, or if you're out there singing at the picket line, you probably want to vary between these because you want to give everyone a rest for their voices. So you don't want everything to be mass participation, right? On the other hand, you don't want it all to be a soloist because you want people to feel like they're part of it. So Solidarity Forever. Solidarity Forever we were just doing a moment ago. That one is a song originally of the Industrial Workers of the World, the Wobblies, right? The IWW. And it's composed by, the text was by Ralph Chaplin, 1915. And in this period by the Wobblies, they have there's so many Wobbly songs in this early 20th century union movements, and so many of them took from the second great origin of contemporary union songs. So after Union Army songs, the next really big one is take stuff from churches, right? From church music, which has the same goals, right? You want everyone in your congregation to sing along. You want them to learn it very fast. You want them to feel like they're part of it. So, but the Wobblies were typically pretty sour or pretty parodic, I would say, toward church music. And so they would take all these church songs, like "There is power in the blood of the Lamb," right? And they would take that and make a union version of it. There is power in a band of working folk when we stand hand in hand. Yes, that's a power that must rule in every land. One industrial union grand. Right, and then it's all these sarcastic lyrics, right? Yeah. If you want, you know, anyway, if you like to lick the boot of your boss, then nod and agree to whatever they like. If you would turn every win into a loss, then sign away your power to strike. But there is power in a band of working folk when we stand hand in hand. That's a power that must rule in every land. One industrial union grand. Like so, right? So there are so many great songs from that period that are written by Joe Hill, is one of the great songwriters of this period. He was a labor organizer, Swedish-American labor organizer. And there are also so many other ones that we have now that are international in this period. They're descended from the anti-fascist and socialist movements around the same time period, 1910s to 1930s, and the union movement at that time as well. And many of them circulated all around the world and back again. So we have one that started out in the Russian Civil War, 1918, 1919, called Red Army Black Baron, I believe. This Red Army is the Strongest is an alternative title. It's been around all kinds of different places. In Austria, it became the Workers of Vienna, Arbeiter von Wien. And we learned it here in Pittsburgh via a Norwegian version, Via de Mange. And it's a great song. And we've made English lyrics to it, borrowing some stuff from the 30s and some stuff that we wrote based on the Norwegian version. Banker and boss hate the workers who stand shoulder to shoulder in every land. Though in the conflict our martyrs may fall, labor united shall conquer all behind our flaming crimson banner. Brighter still our hearts do burn. We light the way to a brighter future for all the world when comes our turn. So yes, and then Norwegian, Vi de mange som bygger ein i tid, næven sovni, sov hammaren har vi, etc. And there's another one from a similar period, the Varsa Bianca, the Warsaw song, made its way through some of the same routes, through different parts of Germany, through different parts of the English-speaking world. You may know from this period as Varsa Bianca, Whirlwinds of Danger. There's a famous recording that Paul Robeson did of this. Whirlwinds of danger are raging around us, overwhelming forces of darkness assail. Still in the fight, see advancing before us, red flag of liberty that yet shall prevail. And it's also very well known as a song from the Spanish Civil War, A las barricadas. Negras tormentas agitan los aires, nubes oscuras nos impiden ver, aunque nos espere el dolor y la muerte, contra el enemigo nos llama al deber, and so on. And there was a huge amount of popular movement singing in this period, right? So I've indicated that people sing together. It's a thing that human beings do, right? And so there's a vast amount of that at this time. In the 1920s, 1930s, there was a lot of hope for the labor movement at the time, and there were these socialist governments in some parts of the world that people had a lot of hope for there and elsewhere. And it's a little bit hard to imagine in some corners of American life today. There's a song, people would come up with songs for different strikes. In 1937, there's a big strike, UAW strike, big strike in Michigan at all the auto plants. The companies were trying to speed up the production line, and people didn't like that too much. They just wanted to slow down and stay at a regular pace and not endanger their bodies and their lives. So one of the organizers, Maurice Sugar, has this one from that time. Sit down, just take a seat. Sit down and rest your feet. Sit down, you got 'em beat. Sit down, right? And if the boss won't talk, don't take a walk. Sit down, sit down. When the boss sees that, he'll want to chat. Sit down, sit down, sit down, just take a seat. Sit down and rest your feet. Sit down, you've got 'em beat. Sit down, like so, right? So the concept was you're sitting down in the factory. You're not leaving outside. You're sitting down at your station so no scabs can come in and take your job. And as with so many other areas of American life, I'm sure many of us here were wondering when this moment was going to come. Yes, so many of these songs, well, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, come from black culture, come from black people, black composers. And one of the greatest authors of this kind of protest movement in that era, in the 1930s especially, was this guy, John Hancock. And John Hancock's, I've got a little bit to read about you. Read about the John Hancock's for you, excuse me, about John Hancock's for you. Pete Seeger described John Hancock's as one of the 20th century's most important folk musicians. Long before John, generations of African Americans had produced marching songs, meeting songs, songs of repentance, songs of group and personal liberation, songs of love and solidarity, songs pointing out evil, songs of labor, songs of faith and spiritual quest. The black song tradition provided an almost inexhaustible storehouse of tunes and lyrics to fight against impossible odds to achieve something glorious and new, yet preordained and righteous. Enslaved people had frequent recourse to their music, and they used it in almost every conceivable setting for almost every possible purpose. So there's a little bit more here, but essentially what the author here is telling us is, black songs intrigued white people, and even during slavery could sweep white people up into the spirit of a camp meeting or provide emotional structure to it. So bridging, and people like John Hancock were using this song technology explicitly and intentionally for these purposes. So bridging the racial and class walls that divided people is exactly the function that John Hancock's music and poems would have in his work as an organizer with the Southern Tenant Farmers Union, where he is known for a lot of his work. So following the 1930s, there's a great amount of political music in the Second World War. And after the Second World War, we begin to see some changes developing. The Red Scare happens when a lot of American popular life and politics is oriented around fear of communism, fear of some idea of what communism is and what it's going to do to us. So it becomes essentially impossible to have a career if you have anything to do with communism, and so on and so forth. Big cultural shift at this time, and the same activists who had been involved in the labor movement, in a multiracial labor movement, start to collect around the great momentum that the civil rights movement that is developing a lot of steam and sort of taking over the national stage at this time in the 1950s and 1960s. Then into the 1960s, 1970s, we have essentially other movements that develop, other permutations of the civil rights movement, which never really ended, but other movements that gain precedence at this time, prominence: the women's movement, disability movement, the American Indian movement, and gay rights movements, and others that develop. Now during this period, from 1960s to 1980s, we have a great change in the amount and the quality of massed singing for political purposes, right? Of movement singing, especially in white U.S. culture. I don't want to say that this is universal, that everywhere this has decreased, but there is a decreased prominence of big collective singing. But it's certainly not gone, right? It's certainly not gone. And there's some other songs that have been really great that have come out in the years since. And this is not even that new, but 1984 is deep into this period of music being less of a tool for public politics. And this wonderful Union song. We're not gonna take it. No, we ain't gonna take it. We're not gonna take it anymore. We're not gonna take it. No, we ain't gonna take it. We're not gonna take it anymore. That song's over. And you know this one because it's out there. Twisted Sister, right? Important labor leaders, I guess, because you see it in action, right? You see it being used. You look at the videos of the teacher strike in Oklahoma and in Kansas and so on, and you've got hundreds, thousands of people singing this together, so there's no further proof that's needed that that's a good union song. So there is collective singing, right? But it's diminished. And why is it decreased? Why do we have a hard time singing together at rallies, at picket lines, at meetings, or conferences, right? It's not impossible, but it feels awkward. And it's not the way that it used to be. I mean, you look at these program of a wobbly meeting in Seattle from 1912 or so, I believe. And it starts with a song and it ends with a song. And they're two different songs. Hold the Fort is on there, and the Red Flag is on there. So those are... There's been a change since then, and we can imagine several reasons for this, and I'm sure you have some in mind. Suburbanization, right? You have for these white people, including white people with some kind of stable union work, a lot of them move to the suburbs. Industry moves to the suburbs in the last few decades. Factories have moved to cheaper suburban land, and big office parks, right? And the atomization of society in general that accompanies not only suburbanization but neoliberal lifestyle, where everyone works a lot more hours and there are far fewer social institutions. How many of you have been to your local duckpin league recently, or even been bowling in the last week? Or I know there's some stellar members out there who go to their regular participants in their religious community, and they do their choir and they go vote and all these things, but the rates of civic participation have been falling off, and the hours of work have been piling up since 1980 or thereabouts. And there's another two elements here that I wanted to mention, which are that that we have recorded music, right? Recording technology for really professionally done music is developed during this period from 1950s into the 1980s, and before that certainly as well, right? It becomes more and more accessible to get a recording of someone doing music that's a lot better than you're going to do with you and your uncle and your cousin and your aunt sitting together in your living room. It's a lot more impressive, and it's a lot more accessible, and so that starts to get used. And so if you are struggling to think of a time when you were at a rally or a protest or a picket line when everybody sang something together, let me offer you this possibly easier challenge: to think of a time when something was played from a loudspeaker at a big public event like this, right? I can think of a lot more of that second type. So there are way more access to recorded stuff. And that is subtly connected with this other aspect of neoliberalism, of this economic period we're living in, where everything has to be professional. If you're not good enough to make money at it, you might as well not do it. Hobbies are totally unserious and rare, and for the most part, if you're not good enough to make money doing it, you should be ashamed, and you should not show anyone your quality of doing these kind of things. So through these various processes, many of us have been robbed of the opportunity to sing together, and to do other things together, to play sports badly together, to to have meetings or play games or various other things that we can do on an amateur basis together. The ability to do that has been taken from us in a lot of ways, right? So we can get it back by cutting down on work hours and increasing pay and so on and so forth, but we can also get it back by noticing that it's been robbed from us. That's probably one of the first steps as well, I would tend to think. And I believe we can get it back, and we can get it back together. And I have a vision, and I don't know if this is too realistic, but in 5 years, Pittsburgh is that city where people come and they say, at every protest, for some reason, everybody is always singing here. everybody is they sing a lot. They break out into song at picket lines, and they seem to know a lot of different songs, and they all seem to know a harmony too. Oh my God, so we can become like this. So how do we get there practically? This is the other question. We have to talk techniques, and I want to spend 10, 15 minutes talking about techniques, and maybe I won't go on too much longer than that. But how do we get there, and what do we need to do music practically together? So I think we have to start with rhythm, because some of you were saying, oh, I feel tone deaf, I feel like I can't sing in tune. All right, well, let's think about rhythm then. Let's think about rhythm, and let's think about chants, because it's the same thing that goes on in songs. How many times have you been at a protest where you've heard no justice, no peace, no justice, no peace, no justice, no peace, no justice, no peace? Totally different rhythm every time. No consistency. So if I were to tap out a rhythm under that, no justice, no peace, no justice, no peace, no justice, no. It gets a little off from the underlying beat. It gets a little hard for that reason for people to follow. And a unified, consistent rhythm is an important technology that allows us all to do something together. We do it together in time by having consistent rhythm. So you want to enchant people when you're doing a chant, right? You want to put them into the chant, right? You want to bring them into the song, bring them into the rhythm, enchant them. So you need to give them something dependable, reliable, that they can lock into. So try to keep an unwavering beat. Now, how do you do that? How do you do that? I would recommend that you, if you're able to, and if you're a chant leader, or even if you're not a chant leader, see if there's a way you can move your body. And the more of your body you can move at once, the easier it'll be to stay consistent, because the more momentum you'll have. You can become a big metronome. A big metronome made of people. And this is why dance is also part of this, subtly. Aha, yeah, dance sneaked into here as well. And the other thing about moving your body or moving something you're holding is that it's a visual cue too, which is really great for those times when you're stretched down 5 city blocks and you're off time because you can't hear them very well. But if you could see, that helps. And I also want to recommend, if you have the drum, if you have the cowbell or whatever you've brought to the protest, let's see. We got the chant, if we don't get it, shut it down. If we don't get it, shut it down. If we don't get it, shut it down. At half tempo you do too, right? But if you tap, if we don't get it, then I've been tapping over top of the words. It might drown out the words a little bit, make it a little harder to hear them. If we don't get it, shut it down. What would be helpful there would be to put something in between the words to maintain the rhythm a little bit. Maybe a little soft and loud. If we don't get it, shut it down. If we don't get it, shut it down. If we don't get it, shut it down. We don't, something like that, right? So experiment with that if you like, but to fill in the gaps, right? Especially you have something like no justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, there's a long gap there, no peace. No justice, no peace. Woo, no, big gap where a big ghost fills in. But what I'm saying is it's hard to keep time during that big gap. So no justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. Like this, right? Lead into it. Might be a good thing to do if you've got that drum. And the other thing is, how many times you've been at a protest and somebody's printed out a wonderful, chant sheet. Okay, the chant leader, the person who had the megaphone, they've got the chant sheet, okay. And they're nervous, it's hot, they don't have enough water. They're reading the chant sheet, but what they end up doing is reading the first chant, immediately reading the next chant, immediately reading the third chant, and so the people marching are there's no rhythm that we're getting into because each chant has its own different rhythm. So I want to invite you to consider, and this is coming back to songs in just a second. I want you to imagine looping the chant 10 times, or looping it for 10 minutes, just the one thing, because then you can get people imagining alternative versions of it, actually figuring out what you were saying, right, and taking ownership of it in a way. As for songs, okay, and as for putting melodies in, I'm not usually a huge fan of Joe Glazer. He's okay. I don't know. I select different music than him, but he has this book that's very, very useful. This guy right here, Songs of Work and Protest. There's sheet music for a bunch of good things in here. Musicians may complain that many of the tunes are unimpressive, but most of them fulfill the prime requirements of a people's song, that it shall be easy to sing. A great many of the Union songwriters borrowed their tunes from familiar folk songs, popular songs, or gospel hymns, which were already known to the people for whom they were writing. Glazer has to the men for whom they were writing, but anyway. Bless him. Bless Joe. So yeah, so take a song and repeat it for a long time. Why? Because the question is, how are people going to learn the song? They're going to learn it on the spot. They're going to learn it by doing it right there. And so you can take plenty of time to get into it. Take more time getting into it, and people can develop harmonies. They can experiment with something, get comfortable with it, take ownership of it, right? And now you've done it. By the time you've been looping something for a little while, you'll notice, ooh, there's a really great bass line coming out here. That, ooh, there's a wonderful harmony, a third down or a third up that I hadn't expected that would come out of this, but it's emerged from the group, right? There's a couple of ways of getting at a harmony. You can do what's called an ostinato, Ostinato, or something like this, probably. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back, and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back, and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back, and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, oh yes, to freedom land. The point here is, I'm on my way, then everybody else, I'm on my way. And by singing those in overlapping way, they create a harmony together. The second half of the first line and the second line coming in, the first half of it, match up together in an interesting way, create a harmony. So I'm just going to loop that 2 more times, and I want you to try it at home, okay? So what your job is, if your mission, if you choose to accept it, move it down a little bit, a little more comfortable for some of us out there. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back, and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back, and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back, and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, oh yes, to freedom land. Now your job is to fill in that second half like I was doing. I'll do the first half, and I'll just stick on it, and then we'll hear that harmony. Well, you will at home, if you wish. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, oh yes, to freedom land. So there's a lot of songs like that where you get a nice ostinato following part. You can also do that with a round or a canon, where everybody sings the same short melody, and then they all overlap with each other, and they just loop the whole thing. So it becomes an amazing Ouroboros of chasing each other around. It's quite lovely. There's some really beautiful rounds out there that we'll work on together. One of these times, if you come to the Labor Choir. Otherwise, If you don't have one of those structures, you need to have a chorus. You need to have that chorus. You need to have that chorus that you come back to, there is power in a band of working folk when they stand hand in hand. Yes, that's a power that must rule in every land. One industrial union grand. Right, you gotta have the thing you come back to that everybody knows. And then you can have a long verse in between, narrate all the weird stuff you need to, put in all the jokes, be sarcastic, and all these complicated things. Strange rhymes, difficult words, but then you get back to the chorus, it should be a little more straightforward and everybody knows it. You slam into that chorus, and the main message is in the chorus. Now you can do even better than having a chorus. You can do even better than having a chorus. You can do a song where you repeat the whole thing, right? It just loops forever, like We Are Soldiers in the Army, which we did a little bit ago. But you can also have a song that's called a zipper song. And zipper song is a great idea. Now that this is a term that was developed by Lee Hayes in, I think, 1941 or so. And this is a period when zipper meant go fast. And it didn't just mean the bit of metal or plastic that closes and opens your garments in your suitcase. It meant you go fast. So the zipper song, you zip in a new line and you create a new verse by just changing one little bit, and the rest of the entire song just repeats the whole way. So this little light of mine, you might know, right? This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Hide it under a bushel, hide it under a bushel, no, I'm gonna let it shine. Hide it under a bushel, no, I'm gonna let it shine. Hide it under a bushel, no, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. And maybe your light is your life and how important it is and how much it needs to be respected. And maybe you want to get that message across to the warden of the prison where you are. So tell the warden, I'm gonna let it shine. Tell the warden, I'm gonna let it shine. Tell the warden, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Like so, right? So we can stick in all kinds of different things. And I got another one for you. How about when the saints go marching in? Oh, when the saints go marching in, how I want to be in that number when the saints go marching in. How about a different thing? Let's see. When the rich shall pay their share. Let's say, when the rich shall pay their share, or when the rich shall pay their share, how I want to be in that number when the rich shall pay their share. The thing about zipper songs is you can change what they're about. Just add a new lyric, you can keep going for hours. And I gotta come back to, I told you he was great, John Hancock's. Okay, John Hancock's, yeah, wrote, I think, the best zipper song that there is, which is Roll the Union On. And this is a real party song because you just roll the union over different stuff. You want to roll the union over the boss. Let's capo it up a little bit. Let's change things up for once. We're gonna roll, we're gonna roll, we're gonna roll the union on. We're gonna roll, we're gonna roll, we're gonna roll the union on. If the boss gets in the way, we're gonna roll it over him, we're gonna roll it over him, we're gonna roll it over him. If the boss gets in the way, we're gonna roll it over him, we're gonna roll the union on. And then you roll it on, and then you want to roll on something else? Absolutely. You want to roll over the fascists? Great. They deserve it. You want to roll over me and you if we get in the way? Great, that's perfect too. You want to roll it over the cops? You know, works on them too. A union can roll right past them or right over them. And you want to roll it over, oh, I don't know, we can think of lots of these. I was sitting at a bar with some friends one time a couple of years ago, and we busted out Roll the Union On. And we started with the admin and the boss, then the cops, then the Donald. And this was during the period of time when Catalonia was getting close to grabbing independence, but they didn't quite do it. But so España, and then F, the fascists, and then G, I think we thought of something. We went all the way through the whole alphabet. We rolled the union over 26 things. Anyway, you can roll the union over a lot of stuff. So it's a genius zipper song. And I'm going to sort of start to wrap up now. And I want to just say everybody is good enough at music to lead a song because other people will start joining in with you. Or maybe everyone is good enough at music to lead a song if everyone will be kind enough to join in with you. But I'll come in and help you out. I'll be there at your side. And I hope we all can decide to do similarly. When you're doing these songs, I want to encourage people to, be aware of the history and, look at old stuff, but make up new songs all the time too, and change words. The great labor folk singer Utah Phillips has these words to share for us. He put in the Big Red Songbook. We have the Little Red Songbook from the Wobblies, and then there's this Big Red Songbook, which is a compilation of all the different things that have been in the IWW Songbook over the years. And he wrote, I believe, an afterword for it, and he has this to say: everything in the song can be adapted again and again to suit a present need. And we can do this because the songs are ours. We can change and bend them to suit our needs. Look at Bread and Roses. The line, "The rising of the women is the rising of the race," has become, "The rising of the women is the rising of us all." In Joe Hill's Power in a Union, I was singing that for you a moment ago, the line used to be, "Come on, do your share like a man." And now we sing, "Come on, do your share, lend a hand." Even in Solidarity Forever, given our times, many of us don't sing "When the union's inspiration through the workers' blood shall run," but we sometimes sing "When the workers' inspiration through the union's blood shall run." So Utah Phillips says, go ahead and change them up as you need to. And I would recommend that if you're going out, if you're planning to lead songs, or if you're planning to, want to have fun with some of this stuff, that you might want to have a couple of songs in your back pocket. That's one of the easiest things to do. In addition to just thinking carefully about rhythm and so on and so forth, get to know at least one good option, and then get to know it well enough that you won't forget it when you're nervous, because I forget a lot of stuff when I'm nervous, and some of you have seen me do it. A lot of us too, right? I'm not anything magical here, right? So it's just get one song, and that can be good enough. You want to get Roll the Union On? Absolutely, solid, right? Maybe you want to get two, maybe get a mournful one and a celebratory one. That's great. And if you want to learn a third song, maybe you add, mournful, celebratory, maybe angry you want to do, or maybe sarcastic you want to do. Get a couple of different emotions that you can express in songs. So there's so many wonderful places to learn new songs, and I think I've had some whiff of what might have been passing in chat. I think people have been dropping some references in there, and I'll put one in just a moment as well. But you can write your own too, and people have always done that. So get out there and write your own songs. I'll tell you one that I wrote. It's just words, right? You don't have to come up with the tune, because there's so many tunes out there that are great. There's a popular show among people my age and younger, and has a lot of music written by Rebecca Sugar. same last name as Maurice Sugar, our guy who wrote down "Sit down, take a seat" in that. But I've reworked the text to be, all I want to do is organize with you, a giant union, a giant union. All I want to be is someone who gets to see one big union. All I want to do is organize with you, a giant union, a giant union. All I want to be is someone who gets to see one big union. Well, I think it'll be great, and I just can't wait to see the movement we build together. We can have our own say and get higher pay because we are a giant union. We need more than friends hanging out together. We need solidarity forever. All I want to do is organize with you, a giant union, a giant union. All I want to be is someone who gets to see one big union. Like so, right? But this is more of a performance song, right? Because it doesn't have a big chorus that's easy and repeats, right? But you know, those are good too. Anyway, that's it. I'm gonna grab a cup of water and return, and let's all collaborate together in a nice discussion. And I'll put in my list of lyrics that we've been working on with the Pittsburgh Labor Choir too. We have 124 songs in a Google Doc that I'm gonna send you. Oh, and Feeney is fantastic. Yes. So many good things coming in. But I'll wait. We have people actually moderating, so I'll let them.
We have a Q&A. And
we do.
Everybody out there give a big Zoom muted applause hand to one of the best speechifying events I've ever heard about music. Yeah, well, you can learn a lot just by listening to people talk about music. We got some great questions. One, and we will start out before we miss this is from Penn Hackney. What was the Pete Seeger quote that you gave us early on about songs? Ooh. If you can just either put that in the chat or maybe just say it slowly. Chant it.
The very first one was on my paper here. That that songs can do what speeches cannot do. And I have some other. He occurs in a number of places, right? He's a great example of somebody who balances the performance and the participation lines of things. Yeah.
From Larry Abel.
I hope that was the one you wanted.
Oh, yeah. From Larry Abel, who I believe his family originally is from Homestead. He now lives and works in Melbourne, Australia. He says, at the big union rallies here in Melbourne, 150,000 or so marchers, there's not much singing, but a lot of chanting. My follow-up question is, since there are so many songs today in people's minds of just all kinds, is chant a better choice when you've got a rally or an event that is really basically where you can't see the end of it, where there's so many people? What's really the best way to kind of go about that? I mean, I'm sure there's a PA system with that, 150,000 marchers. But
there's a few things you can do in an occasion like that, right? And I'm sure other people have ideas too. One thing you can do when you have 150,000 people is you can certainly chant, and you'll have people chanting separately in their little scrum here and there, right, in their little collection in different areas. One thing you can do is abandon rhythm. Give up on it. And there's songs you can do that way that can be arrhythmic. And here I'm just stealing directly from a Pete Seeger presentation that is recorded, and you can find online. I'll give a link to that too. But you can sing Amazing Grace or things derived from Amazing Grace totally without rhythm, and let each note just reverberate and like pass like a ripple or a wave through the crowd. Amazing grace. You know, you can keep doing it you take your time. And there's a great, so that's an option, I think, to get people singing together. Because rhythm, I think, is important in a small group and in a chant when anybody's together. But just the fact of singing together is its own useful phenomenon, and I think worth doing. And there's an old wobbly version of Amazing Grace too, because of course there's a parody wobbly version of every popular hymn from the early 20th century, and it goes, "Amazing boss who hired me, and told me what to do. I've sold more crap than he can sell. Now I must bid adieu. There's 3 more verses, so look those up too. They're in the Labor Choir collection. I don't remember what number, but deep in there somewhere.
Yeah, well, you figure like something what you're saying would be like a wave effect. It would eventually start at one point.
I think that could work, right?
Sound, and that just sonic vibration has its own powerfulness.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Taylor Bjerke says, any comments about the effects that protest music can have on those who are the target of the protest? I mean, it's, you know, kind of walls of Jericho kind of thing. I mean, have you ever?
Right. You have so many different audiences, right? As Denisov was saying, you've got your internal audience. You've got a thing that you sing to keep yourself in good spirits, like, you know, people have done when they're put in prison and stuff. You have got the thing that you do for the movement, and then you've got the thing for people you want to recruit to the movement. And, you know, it's good to, if you're casting your enchantments on people, you know, you're doing your magic spells, do one on the cops too, you know, make, you know, work on the emotions of the people who are, you know, calm them down. It's good. Sing a lullaby to them and let them let them go back to sleep. No, I think it absolutely is important in a number of ways. But you can calm or you can agitate. You know, you can increase the energy. You can increase a militant energy, and you're a lot louder singing together. I mean, it doesn't matter of physics. You know, I've been coming from an anthropology perspective, but if we take a very different perspective, a physics-based perspective, the waves stacked on top of each other are physically louder, and harmonies boost that effect too. So you can get through the glass walls and the air conditioning and the soundproofing of the corporate office a little more effectively with everybody singing together than if you imagine 150,000 people and they're all singing just any note, right? Even if they go very slowly, then you'll hear it. You'll hear that it's something, right? So yeah.
Now, in Pittsburgh here, in various demonstrations or meetings or anything you've attended, have you seen many that feature a designated song leader or the kind of musical master of ceremonies? Do you think it's a good idea? Should people be paying more attention to that?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea because you know where we are now is people are generally not confident in singing, right? As we experienced at the start. So having someone who can be someone you look to can be very helpful if we're going to do mass singing. And I definitely think, you know, somebody performing is good too, but if you want to do mass singing, it's helpful to have a leader too. Sometimes that happens, right? And I think typically we orient to someone as the song leader, even if we didn't intend to. We just orient to whoever is singing the most loudly or confidently, just naturally, I think. But yeah, there are people who do this really, really well. You know, Alexis Thompson does this. I know Andrew Woomer sings at some things. I know Mike Stout, obviously, multiple, you know, published, amazing rocker, protest rocker, union rocker. So we have a lot of people right here in Pittsburgh who, and, you know, everyone out there, and many others who I haven't named because I don't know that much about the scene, and I feel a little bit embarrassed about how little I know, but, you know, there's lots of them. But I think we typically do, at this point, want song leaders, right? And then the goal is, by having more experience singing with people, we can have people say, you know what, I think I'll lead one. I'm going to try.
You know, that leads right into the next comment. Pittsburgh Labor Choir. Pittsburgh Labor Choir. It almost seems it could be a training ground as people get more comfortable meeting and singing songs.
That's right.
It's not just, you know, to kill time on a Sunday or something like that. It really could achieve an actual political purpose. It could really be significant.
I think that's right. Yeah, I mean that's one of the goals, and we've you know, it's so tragic. We just started in like February 2020 and had 3 meetings in person, and then it's all virtual, and the virtual choir is a very strange, different animal, right? So yeah, we went to that mode. But yeah, now we're getting back together in person, and I think that these choir times. I mean, I became confident enough to lead songs. First of all, because I have a terrible personality, and second of all, because I'd spent a lot of time in choirs, and I sort of eventually said, you know what, I can do this. I can make this happen. And yeah, I think you know, just getting people to a place where they can find that confidence is good. I'd be remiss if I didn't say, Pittsburgh Labor Choir is now practicing in person every week, Sundays, from 5 to 6:30 p.m. And we're doing it in person. You can with distance if that makes people comfortable, even with mask if that makes you comfortable. And we've been meeting under the Bloomfield Bridge, the parking lot you access from Liberty Avenue. We may change the spot, but yeah.
I bet that has some really strong acoustics.
It has really strong acoustics from all the skateboarders whose clattering is echoes under there quite a lot. Yeah, anyway, we'll see.
Yeah, it's funny. You know, when you do see media reports, it's usually they zero in on a soundbite. They get either if there's some actual physical event, you know, somebody be beaten or attacked or something, or somebody saying something, you know, outrageous or perhaps incisive. But yeah, it just doesn't seem that the media shows us images of people singing at rallies or even chanting, and we know they do. So yeah. I know I think maybe some people think, well, nobody does that anymore. I won't. But you're saying that really probably people do it more often than we think.
Yeah, you know, I find something you have to develop. I've had in my experience of like going to picket lines and things like this. One of the things you want to get working on if you want to do singing together, one thing I recommend is to borrow somebody's guitar, even if you can't play guitar, or borrow somebody's instrument of any kind. But especially something that looks like you're going to accompany something. Guitar is perfect for this. Banjo maybe. Because someone will ask you, hey, are you going to sing something for us? And then you say, well, I was hoping we could all sing something together. That's the line you give them. And then they say, oh, that's wonderful. Let me take you to so-and-so, who's the organizer. And now you're talking to the organizer. They're setting you up with the sound person, or they're telling you, okay, well, after so-and-so speaks, let's have you do something. Yeah. So bring a big visual symbol that you want to sing something, and then that sort of gets people's mind into the space that, oh, there might be music happening. My experience a little, sorry,
You've had a lot of experience. I tell you, people know how to find you, I think.
Yeah, I have
got a lot of questions, people wanting to know things. They will want to contact you, maybe in the course of yours, if you're offering it some kind. Again, this is a topic we could cover all night. We want to thank especially our Zoom maestro here tonight, Tess, who has been an intern for us, one of the two interns, Tess and Chelsea, for the Battle of Homestead Foundation this summer. Tess, there she is. She has video presented herself, and she did a great job. Again, another big Zoom round of applause, and she will get the last question in. She says, I know that songs were used among slaves to communicate and keep time. Do you know any current songs with these origins?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of this music that has been passed down. You can find in different collections. I mean, like I recommend this Folk and Glaser collection, and there's some others around that I have across the room, unfortunately. But there's a lot of great collections of this music that I mean, current songs that are used for like during work is one element of that, and then other things like current songs that have descended from songs sung by enslaved people. And if we're talking about songs descended from songs sung by enslaved people, it's like, all of the really good hymns that aren't Welsh, and or maybe Bach harmony. Okay, I'll allow a Bach harmony. All right, or all of or like so a number of these protest songs, right? So like the Solidarity Forever has its roots in these harmonies as well, in this practice. They're kind of everywhere, and I want to give a really specific answer, but I'm afraid I have to go to the archive. by the archive, I'm, just a book, but
well, the Library of Congress, I mean, has so many, and they've been releasing so many of their field recordings from the early part of the 20th century. A lot of them are definitely from African American origins, and wow, you kind of heard these things various times in your life, and then now you hear them and see a little background on these new releases from the Library of Congress. It's on the Folkways label, I think.
Yeah, the Smithsonian Folkways and the Library of Congress.
Amazing.
And I also want to recommend our music library here in the Carnegie Music Library at the Oakland branch of the Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh. And if you go in there and look for Union songs or just search for stuff that has Solidarity Forever on it, there's one amazing work that is a 10 CD collection, and it's like 28 hours of music, and it's called Songs for Political Action 1920 to 1956, I believe. And so if you can very gently and respectfully take those MP3s and put them in your computer and then return them to the library very kindly and gently, then you too will have a vast collection of some really cool and some shockingly outdated music. So yeah, but there's many of them out there. There's a lot of great stuff there, and Feeney music is absolutely critical.
Buy every one of her records, every single.
Yeah, definitely.
Memorize all the words. You'll know everything you need.
That's right. They're also in the library.
Yeah. Well, folks, again, thanks for coming and attending this event. Not sure how everybody got here, but you can visit our website, battleofhomestead.org. You can look for us on Eventbrite. Just find Battle of Homestead Foundation, and all our programs appear there. Our next program will be August 19th, and it is titled The Battle of Blair Mountain 1921 and What It Means for Working People 2021. Without a lot of historical detail, 100 years ago, the largest pitched battle on American soil since the Civil War happened in West Virginia, and it was coal mining families, coal miners, attempting to essentially assert their right to unionize. That drew a violent response from the coal mining companies, and 100 years later, people are still talking about it. It has really shaped the modern labor movement. So check into that. We also will have programs in September and October, November, December, just finalizing those. But yeah, everybody, we really enjoy this shared sort of spirit of learning here. Again, want to thank Dr. Everhart for all his information. And look him up, see if he's offering other courses, adjunct courses, maybe some OSHA courses. Battle of Homestead, come join us. We're very open. All these programs currently are free. It's nice when people donate just because they like to. And you can do that on the website. Also, we have meetups. We have currently Zoom only, but I believe within the next couple months, they'll revert back to in-person. And it is basically where, 3-4 dozen of people like us just on this Zoom call, just get together, talk about what's going on in the community in terms of just anything that's political and meaningful and could possibly change the world, starting with Pittsburgh. So that's what we do. Again, thanks a lot. And we'll see you again soon. Good night.
Good night, everyone. I'm going to look at some of these questions. I'm sorry I couldn't answer all of them. I'll be looking at them later.
Ed, thank you so much. It was really wonderful. Really appreciate it.
So glad to have had the chance. Thank you so much, everyone.